Boom. All right. What's up, everybody? My name is Kevin Turner. I've been working in the fitness space for about a decade as a personal trainer and online coach. I'm joined today with my friend and client, Joe Brooks, who is also a fellow fitness and nutrition coach. If you're interested in working with either one of us, we'll have information down below in the description on how you can reach out. So today we're going to talk about are you even ready for coaching? But before we get into that stuff, Joe, what's going on with you? How you been doing lately? Maybe fill
What's
us in
going on?
on.
Yeah,
Uh,
what's going on, guys? Like you said, my name's Joe. I've been a coach seriously for about 2 years now. I'm still pretty new to the game. I started getting serious right when I started working with Kevin, pretty much. He's my coach, for anyone that doesn't know, and then we just recently became training partners. I just started a cut with him. This is going to be my second cut with him. We just completed the bulking phase. I was able to put on some weight, and now we're turning the ship around. So
how long have we been working together?
I think it's coming up on a year. Wasn't the I think the first check in was February.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I
I
know it's
think
been a
that
while.
it's somewhere. It's January, February, March, somewhere in there.
Yeah, I know it's been a while. And when we first started working together, we kind of cleaned stuff up. That's something too. Like I get people, they're like, "Oh, I want to put some muscle on," and I'm like, "Hey, before we put muscle on, we gotta clean this stuff up." So like you weren't out of shape or anything like that, but we dieted you a little bit just to get you in a better position, and then started working your food up, and so put on some size, put on some weight, and now we're turning the ship around, just kind of seeing what we got, seeing the fruits of the labor, right?
Yes, sir. Yeah, we're only about a week in, so the weight hasn't fell too much, but yeah, going into this second cut, I definitely know what to expect a bit more than the first one. I will say the first one was a bit rough just because I had never gone through anything like that before, and I think it was taking a little bit for the weight to come off. I was definitely, yeah, like kind of skinny fat. I had was in the gym and stuff. I was kind of just spinning my wheels. I had a little bit of knowledge of what I was doing, but nothing was structured. Nothing was as dialed as it was when I started working with you.
I mean, I guess that's kind of what we're talking about here is like, the what was like the hardest thing for you to adjust, or I guess like even like the biggest differences in like, the shit that you were doing by yourself, like self-coaching versus working with a coach. Like what was like the biggest adjustment for you?
For me personally, I was. I think with starting anything new, there's a little bit of fear of just like being bad at it, or like, am I going to be able to adjust to this, or am I going to be able to sustain this like long term? That was the biggest thing for me. Um, but because fitness was like still a passion of mine, um, I was excited about it too to see the changes that I was going to go through. I knew that this was going to be good. I knew that you knew your stuff, but while I guess I was coaching myself, it was just easy for me to get too caught up in the weeds. I had known a little bit about everything, and so I was doing a little bit of everything, but not to the extent that you were having me do. Right, so I was like watching protein, but I wasn't watching carbs or fats, or I knew a little bit about variables in training, but like it would be like session to session, I was changing up the variables instead of having them steady, like throughout a plan long term.
Okay, let's dial in on that. Let's look at nutrition, right? So you mentioned that you were kind of like you were tracking macros and stuff, right?
Yeah, yeah. It was uh, because I was watching so many different creators and stuff like that just talk about a ton of different things. Protein was kind of just what I thought I needed a ton of in order to put size on. And so I was only really focusing on my protein intake. But, like I said, I wasn't watching any of my carbs. I wasn't watching any of the fats. And it showed in my physique too. Like I was holding body fat despite, only paying attention to my protein.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
sorry.
Um, that's something that I see, like people that come to me and they're just like doing macros and there's no structure to it. Like maybe they're just looking at, total macros for the day. Like, oh, I need, 200 grams of protein, 200 carbs, 100 fat, or whatever the macros are, right? They don't have like a system in place to consistently reach those numbers. So
Mhm.
some days it's 3 meals, some days it's 5 meals. It could just be all over the place. And what that ends up doing, I think, for most people, unless you're really experienced and you know your shit, is that you are just inaccurate overall. Like you end up, getting to the end of the day, and we love carbs, we love fat, right? So it's like you blow that stuff out early in the day, and you're left with these kind of like poverty macros by the end of the day, where it's just like, all right, well, I got to eat a bunch of protein. Like what, I'm just like eating cans of tuna or drinking whey or just chicken breast, like, and nobody really wants to do that, right? So I think that is just something that I've seen. Like I give people the option when they first start working with me. I say, hey, what do you want to do? Do you want to just track macros and I adjust your macros? Or do you want a set meal plan? And either way, I'm kind of trying to steer them towards a set meal plan. Like, because I've just seen that, like, unless you have this system down, you are probably, unless you have a system in place for hitting the macro targets, you're probably going to come up short fairly consistently. Just like if you had a big purchase, like where you had to save, tens of thousands of dollars, like you're saving for a house. If you're just randomly tucking money away here and there, like you'll get there maybe at some point, but you don't know how long it's going to take. You don't have any way to meter this. Whereas if you were to take inventory of your budget and know, like, hey, I have to save this much money every single week off of every single paycheck, and it'll take me this long, it makes things a lot more consistent, and you have a target to shoot for every single week. So that's kind of the difference in my mind between having just macros for the whole day versus having um, a, a meal plan or even macro targets per meal, where each meal is 25 grams of protein or 30 or whatever the number is, but
Mhm.
it's a system. You know what I mean? It's a system to maintain consistency. um, and then within that keeps the data points more accurate. It keeps the visuals, what we see in the check-in pictures, more accurate, because you don't have wild swings and or inconsistencies in the macronutrient intake. It just keeps everything more consistent. So that's something that I really push people towards, even if they just want to do macros. Like I'll even if they want to do macros, like I'll just give them a meal plan. Like, hey, you can do the macros, but this is how I would structure it in a meal plan, just so you know. So was it easier for you switching over into that sort of system? Because that's what we did, in your case.
Yeah,
Was it challenging?
you had I remember you had asked me like what you just said, which would I prefer a macro meal plan or a real meal plan, where you have everything dialed in? And I had answered I had just wanted macros because that's what I was familiar with.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and like you said, that just opens the door to being sloppy with the diet.
Boom.
You're not eating structured, you're not on a routine or anything like that.
Or you
Um,
start playing with it. You start playing, oh, this Pop Tart has this carbs and this, that, and it fits my macros. And yeah, anyways, go ahead.
Exactly. Yeah, with that mindset and that plan, that's exactly what it is. Oh, this candy is this. Yeah, these Pop Tarts are XYZ carbs. Um, and so yeah, it definitely shows in the difference because if I was tracking macros before and that's the look that I had, and then going to being on a structured meal plan where you have everything out, you've got the alternative options there with the proper weights and everything. Um, you can start to see, yeah, exactly like you said. You can see the differences in the check-ins, what is giving you what results, and then how to make adjustments from there.
Yeah. It makes things more consistent for sure. And I have clients though that I've started on meal plans, and they've basically they've proved to me that they understand that the base of everything needs to be real food, like real whole food, right?
Yeah.
And they've proven to me that they know how to, you know, assemble meals and hit these macro targets. And so for them, and these are people I've been working with for a while, you know, but for them, I'm like, okay, sure, you know, just go ahead, do your own thing. Every once in a while, I'll tune them up. I say, hey, let me see pictures of your meals. Send me pictures of all your meals. And that's something that should be simple. And I catch people like this. I have these little things where I try to catch people, right? Um, and I do it for everybody. It's not like, you know, it's not like I'm thinking that they're cheating on their diets or anything, but I think it's good every so often. Like, hey, just let me see what your meals are looking like. Because I kind of want to see like how it's being assembled. Are we just doing like chicken and rice, or do you have veggies in the mix, or like what's going on? But yeah, I think once you get to a point of experience, you can move through that a little bit more fluidly, just understanding like, hey, we need to eat real food. Like you put good in and you get good out, you know? Um, so, okay, switching over into like training. So you, if I remember, you were kind of like really in, because we got like a big divide in the community right now with like this like science based
Yeah.
sort of like hyper analytical mindset. And then you've got like the bros that are like, just pick up heavy weight and put it down.
Mhm.
And I'm somewhere in the middle. Like I'm somewhere in the middle. And the thing that I always come back to is like, motherfuckers were jacked before all this science shit. Like that's, come on, motherfuckers were jacked before all of these studies and when there was just barbells and dumbbells and nothing else, right? But I'm not ignorant. Like I'm not intentionally ignorant to a better way. But I think in most circumstances, people are just being way too hyper analytical about training, about their form, even. And I'm a stickler for form, like you know that.
Yeah.
But I think in some cases, it's like you got to understand, like you need to build some strength, like you got to move some weight on some of these things. So how was that for you? Kind of where were you at in that regard when we first started training together? And then moving into coaching, kind of what was the difference for you, and how I had you doing things?
Yeah, I was definitely like caught up in that like in that sciency hyper analytical
You
side of
nerd.
things.
You nerd.
But it was just because I didn't know any better, I guess. Like you get so focused on like I need to put as much size on as possible. So like what are the best movements for XYZ? And then how can I perform those at the you know using the best form that I can without even training that hard, right? I think like it, it's easy. It's silly to just get caught up into one side, to pick one side. I agree, and like somewhere in the middle is definitely like going to be the most beneficial because you do have to have the sessions where whatever the movement is, you're just busting your ass. Um, the sessions are hard, the sessions are solid, and that's it. But you also do have to have like, okay, can I push this movement safely? Or is this a quality movement that I can push safely to to a point of failure to get the results? But I was definitely in that sciencey side, but that's just because I didn't know any better. I was kind of operating from a you don't know what you don't know.
Mhm.
Um, and since like training with you, it's definitely more just about like intensity and just executing the lift, and giving pretty much every set, all of your effort. And that's been like the biggest change for me because it's easy. It was easy to just, okay, I'm doing the best movement for this. I'm doing the targeted reps and then just stop and like think that would be good enough. And
Right,
it's
like on paper, like we've got the one arm lat pull down, and that hits the lat perfectly and all that, right? And I do that movement. That's a movement that
right.
I like, right? But also, like somebody in your case, it's like, how about we start fucking deadlifting and we blast your
Yeah.
whole back, because you need to build a whole ass back. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So this hyper accurate, like that's fine and dandy. I think there's a place for that, but also like, you know, like deadlift, and people are going to argue like deadlifting doesn't train the lats and this and that, and like that's just not been my personal experience or the experience that I've seen with my clients. So, you know, that's stuff that, like, if you're not doing it or haven't put a good chunk of time in doing it, it's like that's probably low hanging fruit to just blast your entire back and build some strength, you know? So, and in that first workout, can you hear the dogs?
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah. We'll just wait. Let's wait for them to come down. Noel just got home.
You can't hear nothing in my background, can you?
But yeah, like, just pick some weight up. Just pick some weight, get strong at it, build your base. And then once you have that base built, then you can kind of look at the fine tuning details, you know. But you can't, what do they say? You can't sculpt a pebble, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
You got to have some meat there to work with. And at that point, it's like, what are our biggest bang for your buck movements, you know? And that's the tried and true shit. The first session we did a training session. This is something that I like to do. So I've got several local clients. Most of my clients are online, like different parts of the country, but I've got several local clients, and I love to train with people in person, because everybody thinks they train hard until they train with somebody that trains harder than them. And that's also true for me. Like, I train hard, but I know I know there's another gear. And I know that, you know, training with people that are better than me, more experienced than me, that can help me to get to that next gear. But we had a training session together, and it wasn't anything fancy on paper. I think it was like leg curls, belt squat, leg press, and maybe like a single leg curl or lunges.
We had the Bulgarians.
And the Bulgarian, yeah. That's usually how I set up a good all around leg day. It'll be like, it'll always start with the seated leg curl. There'll be some sort of squat pattern, right? Whether it's barbell, SSB, belt squat. Then there'll be like a really well externally braced squat pattern, like a leg press or something like that. And then some sort of like unilateral, you know, movement, like a Bulgarian split squat, or, you know, a lunge or something like that, right? And then some leg extensions or something. But on paper, the training session that we did looks like nothing. It was like 2 sets of everything, you know. I don't know, what was that, 4 or 5 exercises. And tell everybody how that went.
Yeah, we got about 2 or 3 movements in, and I had to run to the bathroom to throw up. I mean, yeah, it was a brutal leg day for sure. Of course, the first day we train, we do legs, but yeah. So that session, like we talked about after, like it just shows the gear that I could reach, and I know that if I'm training by myself and I'm not hitting that point, obviously the goal isn't to throw up every single session, but if I'm not feeling the way that I felt during those movements and after, I'm just not pushing hard enough. And so that was like, it was good to like set a new bar for training, to know that I can do that and I have to push there if I want to grow and make progress. But yeah, like finding out that, like, you know, yeah, everyone thinks that they train hard until they get with someone that actually trains hard, and you know, it opens them up to what's actually possible, what they can do, and how much work they have to be doing too.
And we can tie this into the topic too, because, like, obviously it is, if you're working with somebody in person, it's easy to train with them and show them that, right? But we both work with people that we don't, you know, live near, right? Like, we don't have the
Yeah.
luxury of training them in person. So in that case, like, this is kind of, again, tied into the concept, like, are you ready for coaching? Like, one of the things that I need my clients to give me is training footage. And that's the only way that I can tell whether you are training to the standard that I want you to be training to or not. And so not everybody not everybody likes filming in the gym. Like I film in the gym, pretty regularly, but I still feel like a kind of like a douchebag doing it. You know what I mean?
Agree.
But in most cases, like I might post some stuff on on Instagram or whatever, but in all those cases, like I'm filming, I'm using the camera as a utility, like to look at look at my training and to kind of check myself and say like, hey, this set felt like this in the moment, but looking at it on video, like I need to turn the dial up a little bit. But this is something that like, are you ready for coaching? Like if you want me to, so I handle nutrition for people, like just nutrition as a standalone. I really prefer to do nutrition and training because I think those things go hand in hand together. But, if I'm working with a client and I'm doing their training, like a part of that is like, you've got to send me training videos. I guess you don't have to, but you're not getting your money's worth, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
So when I write programming for clients, like, and your ass is, you've been slacking on this too, or you were, and now we're training together. But if you're working with me and I'm doing your training, like I have it in the program, like send me a video of this lift, send me a video of this lift, And I usually just keep it to like maybe two exercises per training session, because I don't want them to be focused on filming in the gym, right? Like I need to see this shit. I need to know what's going on, how it looks, but I don't want them, setting up the tripod or setting up the phone for every single training session. But in order to get the best value out of the coaching, like you need to be ready to provide the information that the coach is asking you for, and to continue doing that, because it matters. It matters. Because if you start working with the coach and in the first month, like you're consistently sending training videos and the coach is telling you, hey, you need to turn the intensity up, you're going to be pushing harder. You're going to be pushing harder. You're going to be dialing that up. You're going to be receiving that feedback and adjusting based on that. But if you stop sending those training videos, what do you think is going to happen? You're going to think you're training hard, but you have nobody to check you. You have nobody to say, hey man, like I know you think you're training hard, but like you had some more reps in the tank. So it's important to make sure that you are giving your coach that information, so that they can stay on top of things. So with your clients, is that something that you have them do right now, or how are you structuring that?
Yeah, it's pretty much one or two movements a session that they send videos of. I'll critique the form and stuff, but I'm finding it goes back to the training thing, which is like a lot of people are training to like a mild discomfort and then stopping. And like if anything, like I've had little injuries and little nagging, pains and stuff like that, but like the body is not fragile.
It's not.
And like your body can handle more stimulus than you think it can. I mean, you didn't let me out of the leg press the other day, it was pure misery. But like I'm having to remind my clients that are like you said, you still have reps in the tank. Like you barely slowed down. The rep speed pretty much stayed the same, and then you just dropped it. And it's like that you're not going to see results like that. But yeah, so that's something that I have my clients do too, is they'll shoot me a video of one or two lifts, and I try to change it up. If they sent me their deadlift, I'll have them send me their pull down or whatever it is.
Do you ever get pushback? Do clients ever like, I don't want to film in the gym?
Not really, no. Luckily that hasn't been a thing. They're pretty comfortable with filming and stuff. I think mostly because they do know it's like they're using it as a tool to be better. So it's not like, hey, look at me, look at my physique. I'm flexing and stuff. I've never gotten pushback or anything like that. I do get the most pushback on check-in photos though. I think like when they have to send that first initial check-in, I'm getting the most flack with that. And I can understand that too, but it's also like, if this is the process that you're going to have to do in order to get to the, whatever your end goal is, it's like, you kind of have to adhere to, to that. That's the thing that I get the most flack on for sure though.
Yeah. I'm gonna come back to that. I wanna touch back on the fragility thing, right?
Yeah.
So like my mindset was at an extreme at one point where like I would get ready for a big lift and I'd be like, I don't care if I blow my knees out. Like I'm ready for it. I literally don't care if if I blow my back out, blow my knees out, whatever. Like I'm just gonna I don't care. I'm going to lift this shit. And that's a whole nother topic. That's mindset entering a lift. If you think that you're not gonna get it, you're you're setting yourself up to not get it. You have to
Right.
go into it like I'm going 100% on this. But getting back to my point about people thinking that they're fragile, absolutely. Your body is not fragile. And so at this point, I don't really do a whole lot of in-person training anymore. I meet with my local people that I coach online, but I have kept I've got 3 clients that I've been training in person for gosh 8 years, 7, 7, 8 years. Um, and these are the only clients that I've kept after COVID. After COVID hit, and that's really when I shifted to online. But I just kept three in person clients because I had shifted to online coaching, and I kept them because they are older. They are all retired, and I knew that if I stopped training them, that they would probably just not get another trainer. So, um, one of the guys, or the only guy, my client Jack, he's gonna be 80 this year.
Oh wow.
Um, Pat, she's 67, and Casey is like I think she just turned 51 or 50, something like that, right? So they're older. And how I've kind of approached them is that I don't treat them like they're frail. I don't push them to like sets of failure or anything like that, but like um unlike isolation stuff, I will. I keep going, just get another rep. They're like, "Oh,
Yeah.
you said 10." I was like, "Well, I lied. You got 5 more. Keep going." Right? Um and so I've just that's something they've learned too, is like, oh, I'm not as frail as I thought I was. Like
Yeah.
all of them can squat, all of them can deadlift, all of them can do all of these things that none of their friends can do.
Right.
And they tell me about this. They're like, so and so is all, has got her hip replaced, got all these sort of things and going on. And it's just like, man, you got to understand too, like this training stuff is cool for the aesthetic point of view, but we're also training to not fucking die
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
not have a bad quality of life. And, a part of that is you gotta stay up on things. You gotta push yourself even when you don't want to push, or maybe even when scared of pushing. Like your body is resilient, and you just got to understand that when you're training in the gym. Otherwise it's not going to do anything for you. You know what I mean? um but on the check-in photos, I've had that a couple times where people don't want to send photos, and I understand it. uh it's like they don't want to acknowledge it. They don't want to acknowledge like where the state that they're in, and they're kind of maybe ashamed of it. And they don't want to show that to anybody else. But I just kind of reassure people like, hey, these pictures, I'm not going to ever share your pictures without your expressed consent. This is just between you and I. um and also like, hey, it's helpful for me to see as much of you as possible, like guys wearing kind of like boxer briefs, and
Right.
maybe females wearing the same with like a crop top or sports bra. But also like, hey, just send your check-in photos in a level of clothing that is comfortable for you.
Yeah.
Whatever that is, and we can work with it. But it's important that we nail this check-in process. Like this is the process. We have to acknowledge these things. And also I think it's so huge for people. I kind of tell people, I'm like, look, this is the worst you're going to look moving forward. This is your start. You're just getting started, but you have to acknowledge this. This set of photos is the worst you're going to look from this point. It only gets better. And at some point in time, if you keep checking boxes and staying consistent, you're going to look back at these photos and be like, what was
Mhm.
going on? Right. And it's going to be a point of pride instead of a point of shame, because you'll just be able to see night and day how far you've come. Um, but also, like, the photos are important because a lot of people are focused on the scale, and that's kind of the next topic I want to get into. But a lot of people are focused on the scale, and I can't tell you how many times that I've had it. A lot of times it happens with males, more so than females. But I can't tell you how many times I have started working with a client, and the scale weight really doesn't change that much. We get them on a structured plan. They're getting their food distributed consistently and evenly throughout the day. They're prioritizing their sleep. They're training harder. I put them on like maintenance calories. I don't ever really, unless the timeline demands it, throw somebody right into a deficit.
Mhm.
So I try to start them on maintenance calories. Scale's not moving, but like, 3, 4 weeks in, it's like the proof is in the pictures, bro. Like, look at the
Yeah.
pictures, man. And I think that that can be an eye opener for people, because it's not all just the scale. Like, the scale matters, and in a lot of situations, we're gonna need to see that scale move.
Right.
But in some situations, the scale is not the end all be all. Like, I don't care what the scale says. I don't care what the DEXA scan or the InBody or any of that says. I'm looking at you. I can look at the pictures, look at them side by side. You are making progress. So you have any pushback on people like wanting to get their daily weigh-ins? Do you have people weighing in daily, or do you have
I
only
do,
people?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I do have them doing weigh-ins and stuff. But yeah, like you said, like what when people want to get into shape, they want to look better. And so yeah, it's not super important if there's, they've been tracking for a week and they have one uptick or whatever it is. If the pictures are showing change, like, that's the goal. If you want to look better, and you can see that you're consistently changing and your look is improving, it's like there's not really a need to look at the scale. But then, like you said, at some point, if someone needs to be losing weight, weight needs to be falling, then of course. But at the end of the day, if you think that you're looking better, it's like, there's not really anything to worry about. But I think that's a thing that people like, they've never been coached. They're more, at least in my experience, is people that have never been coached. Well, they'll think that they failed the day if they have a slight uptick in their weight in a
Oh,
check-in. And it's like this is we're not just looking at the one day. That could be chalked up to a bunch of different things. If your week average dropped or if it went up or whatever it is, depending on what the goal is, you didn't screw up the entire week. You didn't screw up all of your progress. I'm
yeah.
having to like remind people of that like pretty frequently, but they kind of don't, they don't know either because they've never been coached or they're new to this stuff.
And that's kind of what I try to focus on with people. Like, your one weigh-in on one day means nothing.
Yeah.
So I always try to emphasize, like, if your average weight, so the way that I have things set up with my coaching is that I have clients track their weight, their morning weight, before they eat or drink anything, after they've used the restroom in the morning. And I need at least three weigh-ins a week. I'll work with people, but I really want you to weigh in every single day, because it's information. Um, but I have them track that weight and put it into a spreadsheet, and the spreadsheet kicks out an average of the last 7 days. And that is one of the things that I'm looking at on the check-ins. Like, what is the average weight of this check-in compared to the average weight of the last check-in? And are we moving in the right direction? Um, but I've had people, like, it's wild, man. Like, I've had people check in on check-in day and their weight's up like 2 or 3 pounds, but their average weight for the week is down a
Right.
pound or two. And they're like, man, I thought more would happen this week. I'm kind of bummed out. I followed the plan, but my weight's up. And I'm like, no, your weight is not up. Your weight is down,
Yeah.
So I have to drill this over and over with people that, like, your weight fluctuates from day to day. right? So you shouldn't have like wild fluctuations, but your weight fluctuates. Like, and if you're doing a carb cycling approach where you have more food or less food on some days, like you're gonna have some fluctuations, which is completely normal. But even if you were in an isocaloric setup where like every day is the same exact macros, same exact calories, you don't drink the same amount of water every day. Like, as accurate as you might think you are, you don't drink the same amount of water every day. You don't move the exact same amount of steps. You don't train the exact same output every single day. Leg day is harder than chest day. You know what I mean? And so with that, you're going to have fluxes in your, your body weight. And so you can't look at any single one day as the end all be all. You have to put this information, these data points across multiple days and look at the average weight from week to week and look at that. If you were to just weigh in on a Monday of each week, it doesn't tell you any. It's better than nothing, but it doesn't tell you anything actually, because what about all the days in between? What if you were 200 pounds last Monday and 200 pounds the next Monday? You'd be like, oh man, I didn't lose any weight. But what if all the days in between you were 195 pounds? Right? Like you're moving in the right direction.
Yeah.
So I think, just really drilling that average weight and just having people understand that you got to look at the bigger picture and not get so hung up on just little jumps and little downticks. And on the flip side of that, I've had people that were like, yeah, I lost weight this week. And I'm like, no, you didn't. You fucking gained weight, homie. Your average weight is up.
Yeah.
Like you didn't do what you think you did, So yeah, that's really interesting.
Is that more common? Is that more common for you to see with people that you've had for a while too? Like, will that still be an issue if you've had someone for 6 months or a year even?
Yeah, and if I'm being honest, more so with women than men. Men too, but more so with women. And it's wild. Like I have to constantly remind people like that one weigh in just it doesn't matter. Especially if you have an uptick in weight and like you're doing what you're supposed to be doing.
Right.
If you have like an uptick in weight and you messed up, like okay, maybe we need to acknowledge that. But even at that, we're not just gonna change the plan based on one bad day. Like we got to take all this information into account. But yeah, it's something that I have to constantly remind people of for sure.
Yeah, so it's funny that you bring that up actually, because I did just recently have someone that was like, oh, my weight kind of jumped, and can we make a change to the plan? And it was like, he was like really adamant on like we can bump this down a little bit more, and I had to like slow down. Like, we're still trending in the way that we want to be trending right now. Like, I promise you this is not that big of a deal, but it was like a 4-pound difference or something like that, and that was like maybe 1 or 2 weeks ago. But then taking the average on his check-in day, that was the most he lost yet. So it's like, he wanted to change all of this stuff, and it just wasn't necessary. And so being able to show him in the check-in too, that it's like, you had this giant jump and you were beating yourself up and you wanted to change everything, but this was the biggest loss that we've had since we've been working together. It's like, you can slow down. You do have like some peace of mind that these fluctuations and stuff don't ruin everything.
Yeah. The data will set you free, because the data doesn't lie. Like your emotions and your reactions to things, that can be a lie oftentimes. But yeah, I sometimes get people that want to make changes that, and I take my clients' input and their feedback into account. It's not just my way or the highway. Like, if you want to have long-term compliance, like the client needs to feel like they have a voice in the relationship, right?
Sure.
But just generally speaking, this kind of pushes us into the next topic of managing expectations, right? because that's another big one. Like, are you ready for coaching? You need to have realistic expectations, and a part of my job as a coach is to manage those expectations for you. Um, so a part of that is like people want to lose so much weight in a short period of time, and I have to tell them like, hey, this is not a race. The faster we take it off, the less the quality of that weight loss is going to be, and the
Mhm.
faster your body's going to start pushing back. So people
Yeah.
get hung up. Like I say, hey, if we're cooking, depending on how I have things set up, if I see you losing a half pound to like, pound and a half, 2 pounds a week, I am incredibly happy with that. I don't want to see, crazy, 5 pound, 6 pound drops every week. And in some cases, like if there's like a heavier individual, like you very well, like you might see some big drops initially,
Right.
but long term sustained rate of loss, I don't want to see those big drops. We want to make sure that we are doing this at a nice, steady pace and that we are not being greedy. Because when you get greedy, things fall apart.
Yeah.
Your strength goes into the toilet. And that's one of the main kind of things that we look at. Like if we're upholding training performance and strength in a fat loss phase, odds are you're holding on to tissue. Odds are you're holding on to your lean muscle. But if you are, 6, 8 weeks into a diet and you're having like these crazy strength detriments, you're doing something wrong. You shouldn't
Yeah.
you shouldn't be having that happening. So that's a part of what I really try to focus on. Like, hey, just because you lost a pound this week or a half pound this week and you want more, it doesn't mean that we need to do anything. Let's just keep riding this out until we see the weight loss plateau, assuming you're doing everything that you need to be doing, because if you're not following the plan, the only thing you need to do is start following the plan.
Right.
But assuming you're following the plan and the timeline allows, let's just ride this out until we see a plateau, and then we can play a card and make some changes, and see what we come up with next, right?
And sometimes I'm finding it that like when I get inquiries and stuff like that, and they're talking about I want to lose. I just got asked earlier if they could lose 20 pounds in like 8 weeks, and sometimes it's like even the being like, well, that's not realistic. They're automatically put off by that. Like the fact that it's just not a possibility. It's like, oh, I don't even want to do it at all then.
See,
And
but there's people, and I stay away from those people. I have that in my questionnaire, um, as like what is your goal and what is your timeline? When do you want to reach those goals? Okay. And so when I have somebody that has some crazy weight loss goal in a short period of time, and I hop on that phone call, that phone consultation, I do that for all my potential leads for clients, right? I tell them, I say this timeline, for your goal, it's not going to happen. I can do it to you, but I would be doing you a big disservice.
right,
And if they push back on that, I'm not going to try to sell them. I'm not going to try to work with them because they're not ready to work with me, because they are not in it for the long haul. So if you ever have that happen where like somebody's pushing back, and they're like, "Oh, I really want to do this," and you feel like you're going to lose that potential client, I'm telling you, man, you're dodging a bullet, and
yeah,
you'd be doing them a disservice. There are tons of people that sell these, 8 week, 6 week, lose 20 pounds, lose 30 pounds. That shit doesn't work long term. It
yeah,
it doesn't work. You can absolutely lose a tremendous amount of weight in a short period of time. Can you keep it off? What do you look
right,
like after you do that? Have you maintained your strength? Have you maintained your muscle? There's way more to it than just that number on the scale. Like we want quality. We
yeah,
want quality. Would you be happy if you lost 20 pounds or 30 pounds in 8 weeks, but you only looked a little bit better or looked the
right.
same? No, I'd be pissed off. Cause I lost some muscle. So that's a big thing, just managing expectations and kind of, and I think a part of that too is that they're just going to have kind of faith in the process from the get-go.
Yep.
But a big part of it is education. Like I always trying to tell them why. Like this is how we're doing it and this is the reason why we're doing it. um, because they need to understand it. And sometimes I'm a little long-winded with my clients, but I want to give them that education. I want
Mm.
to, and it's a bad business model, but I want them to get to a point where they don't need me, and they
100%.
understand how to move through this stuff on their own and set up successful fat loss phases and set up successful gaining phases, to where you're not losing weight too quickly or having unrealistic goals, or you're not gaining weight too quickly in a bulk and just getting fat. Like you
Yeah.
have to have these systems in place. And until you work with the coach, you're not gonna know how to develop you're not gonna have these systems. That's
Right.
how, like, I've been doing this for a long time, right? And I've had plenty success on my own, getting lean and putting muscle on without a coach. But it wasn't until I first started working with a coach that I saw how he was operating and the system that he was keeping me in, and how he was making the adjustments and how he was looking at the information, that I was like, oh, okay. You don't just make changes whenever you feel like it. Like you
Yeah.
play a card, you see it through, and then when you know you're kind of stuck, now we play another card. Because inevitably, if you're self-coaching, what ends up happening is you just start going after the next new shiny thing that's in front of you, right? Maybe you're in a fat loss phase and you have a bad day at the gym and you lose some strength. Well, I need more food. Motherfucker, no, you don't. You
Yeah.
need to take your ass to sleep.
Yeah.
You need to did you come into that training session well slept? Did you come into that training session well hydrated? That you don't need more food. You need to look
Yeah.
at what else you're doing, right? And so the coaching, I think, really teaches you to start paying attention to these variables, and not just making random changes all the time, because it gets to a point where you're changing so much stuff, you don't even know what's what anymore. So again,
Mm.
just systems. You got to fall back on systems and kind of keep yourself between the lines, and that is a lot of what my job as a coach is.
Yeah, I've said it to my clients before, is like, my job is for you to not need me at some point. And it ties in with, like, if you're, talking about the 8 week thing, or wanting to drop a ton of weight in a small period of time, it's like, you're not learning, you're not picking up on any habits that you're going to be able to sustain by yourself without me.
You're
You're
not
going to be
solidifying any habits either.
right.
What are you going to solidify in 8 weeks? Yeah, go ahead.
Exactly. And so it's like, telling these people, just talking back to, like, just losing them. It's like, you're not gonna get the 40-pound drop in 3 months or whatever it is, but I can still give you results if you yeah, like you said, like, just have faith in the process. Like, it's not gonna be what you were expecting, but that doesn't mean I can't get you there at all.
Right.
Um, and so yeah, like, having them being able to see the process and being able to actually pick up on what works, seeing how the adjustments are made, why the adjustments are made, and then eventually, hopefully, they get to a point where they don't even need a coach anymore. That tells me that I did my job well enough. I explained everything. You learned enough. You picked up enough of the habits. You're free now to do it on your own. I think that's what makes a good coach a good coach.
Yeah, absolutely. I've got a client that's getting ready to, so we're in a competition prep right now. We're maybe like 4 or 5 weeks out from a powerlifting meet, and after which she's going to be going and doing her own thing. And I didn't look at it like, oh man, you're leaving me, I'm losing a client. Like, I didn't take it like any type of way. I was actually like, damn, okay, she feels like she's ready to go to her next step. And this is a lifestyle client. Like, she does, competitive powerlifting and stuff, but more or less a lifestyle client. But I took it as like, okay, like, she feels like she's ready to go and try things on her own. This is a good thing. This is not a bad
Mhm.
thing. So I just, in this case, little things on every check-in, like whenever we talk, like, I'm just trying to give her little pieces to just make sure that she is, um, you know, ready to roll and ready to kind of hit the ground running on her side of things. And I think that almost even like, if you're working with so people will hire a coach for like a bodybuilding prep, right? and they'll go through the prep and they'll get to stage and maybe they got the result that they wanted or not. But then after that, it's like, all right, sayonara, see ya.
Yeah.
Dude, the most important time to have your shit dialed in and to be with somebody, especially after a powerlifting competition, or sorry, after a bodybuilding competition, is that post show period. Like you need to have your stuff buttoned up. Because when you don't have any accountability in place, when that structure and those systems that were keeping you accountable are gone, the floodgates are going to open, man. And so, yeah, in this case, like I'm just trying to make sure, like, hey, just make sure you don't necessarily. I'm trying to tell her, like, you don't have to stay as strict as we are doing things right now. But this is how I would approach it. I would have you stay in between these calorie ranges. Make sure you keep using the spreadsheets. You still have access to all that stuff. Make sure you keep your check-ins with yourself in place. I'm not coached right now, and I still have weekly check-ins. I still do all the same things all my clients do. So having some sort of self accountability system in place, is important. So
I want to touch on because you said that she's going to be going off doing her own thing. You've had that same effect with me too. Is like when you became my coach, I was able to learn a ton, just about coaching and being a better coach myself. And I feel like I'm at a point where I'm like, I can do this at a pretty good level and be able to help people and stuff. And so you've done that. Yeah, you did that for her, how she's going to go off and do her own thing. And you've also done that for me too. But I wanted to ask, so I've never done like a bodybuilding prep or anything like that. Why is it so important to still have a coach even after those shows? What do you see happen with people's physiques, or what do you see them fall into if they don't have a coach and the floodgates open, that type of stuff?
rapid weight gain. Rapid weight gain. If you actually got into shape for your show, you are going to be a level of hungry that you just no words can make somebody that's never gotten competition lean understand how hungry you are and how food focused you are. Every thought, every minute of every day is food, 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 food. Your body is telling you eat, 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 eat. And so, unless you have a ton of discipline or a system in place to keep yourself in check, and even people that have coaches after the post show period, some people just, man, they just go off the rails. Like it's common, man. It's really, really common. I've been blessed that I have not ever experienced that. I've never experienced like crazy, like, rapid weight gain. Like, and I put some weight on after a show, but I've never put weight on in a way where it disintegrated my physique. And it's common to see people, 6, 8 weeks after the show that they're not in shape anymore, bro. Like they're completely like they're back at the start of prep or worse. So yeah, it's a tough sport, man. So you gotta have your ducks in a row and just kind of know what's to come. And it's hard to know until you experience it your first time.
Yeah. Is it
Um,
is it so it does it's just ending up in fat gain then? Or is it, are you seeing anything else? Is it any quality size? Because of their body is a sponge at that point and they're just throwing food down. It is all just what?
fat,
Just fat.
fat and water. Yeah, fat and water. I'm talking, dude. Like I'm talking, it's nothing for some people. 30 pounds, 40 pounds in weeks. And it depends on like what you're doing. It depends on what type of food you're eating. But like, yeah, your body's a sponge and you're very um insulin sensitive at that point, but you're also like your body wants to store everything, right? And so if you're putting a bunch of shitty food in your body, it's nothing to get 5,000, 6,000 calories, 7,000 calories in shitty food. And if you immediately before that you were eating 2,000 calories, 1,500 calories, 1,200 calories,
Mhm.
what do you think's going to happen? Like
Yeah.
you're going to put fat on at an astronomical rate. And so, yeah, no, it's not just, it's a lot of water retention. Your blood pressure goes up, your ankles are swollen. But it's also fat. It's fat. The body is a sponge, both for filling up glycogen and storing fat at that point. So, but
Interesting.
hey, I think we covered everything. We're like 55 minutes in. So, is there anything else that you want to add before we wrap up?
Not really. I mean, we got through the topics pretty well, I think. Covered everything that we wanted to talk about. Are we doing a Q&A or anything like that? In any
No,
of these extra ones?
I don't have anything. So,
Yeah, I don't have anything either then.
so yeah. All right. Well, hey, we'll wrap it up there. If anybody is interested in coaching, you can find our information, reach out to us. It'll be down below in the description. All right, cool. That's the first one. Thanks for watching, guys. See you later.
See you later, guys.
See you.
Shit. All right, how do we end?